Welcome in to the Energy Tech Podcast. For today, we have national best-selling author, USA Today, Jeff Hancher in the building, when we will be discussing his new book, Firm Feedback in a Fragile World, among many other topics. Jeff, you've been on the calendar a long time. You're a hard guy to get. Appreciate you coming in today. How you doing?
I am outstanding. It's a pleasure to be here. I always love the platform that I can talk what I'm passionate about. So thanks for having me.
Congratulations on the book, by the way.
So exciting. Who would have ever thought? But here we are, and the most rewarding thing from the accolade is that leaders are being equipped. That's what this is about.
Perfect. Yeah. So I took a vacation, about 2-3 months ago. I went to Cape Cod for the weekend, and I'm not a heavy book reader. I read a lot of articles and things like that. But I was like, I bought the book, and I've been delaying it. So I spent that weekend, read the book, and I said, man, I wonder if Jeff will come on the show. So it's really great to have you. Me and Jeff are almost office mates, by the way, here in Canonsburg. So really cool book, guys. We'll check it out. We're about to talk quite a bit about it. But first, I want to talk about Jeff and your background. So I've got some notes here. And you know, I'm a little nervous to have a best-selling author. So USA Today best-selling author, great news there. But Jeff has a really great background. U.S. Army vet. Thank you for your service, Jeff.
My pleasure.
He's a Fortune 500 career and from driver to execution leadership, promotions and 10 promotions in 20 years with his previous company. Currently, he serves as an executive leadership and coaching expert. He's got his own podcast. It's called the Champions Forum, correct?
That's it.
Really cool podcast. Listen to there. But those are kind of some of the high points, Jeff. I really want to get to know you a little bit before we jump into the material, but what can you tell us about yourself? What's your journey to this point?
Yeah, man, you definitely presented the highlight reel. I think my wife might have sent you that because it sounds pretty good. It wasn't always that way. I grew up here in southwestern Pennsylvania, grew up in gross poverty, 2 parents that never worked a day in my life, a mom that battled lupus, a dad that battled chronic osteoarthritis, cancer, amputations, you name it. And not only were we poor, but my parents, due to their challenges, made a lot of bad decisions. And so you got two boys, me and my brother, that became teenage delinquents and criminals and alcoholics and very misguided, Jeff. And thank goodness I went to the United States Army, landed at Fort Jackson, and grew up pretty quick. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to go home. I transitioned, was going to go to college on the GI Bill, which, I mean, had never been done in our family history. I'm getting ready to start college, and Dad calls and says they're sending Mom home in hospice. He's having a leg amputated. I put college on the back burner. I go home to help out. I wanted to get a seasonal job just to help them pay bills. And I began as a truck driver at Cintas Uniform Company. And that seasonal job ended up being a 25-year career where I had some of the most amazing leaders that took this scrappy, rebellious young guy and helped develop him and help me create a life that I didn't think was possible. And so I'm passionate about leadership because not only is it great for business, it can literally transform the lives of people. And now I've dedicated my life to doing that all over the world.
Right. Yeah. And so I know you covered a lot of that in the book as well. So that's kind of a review for me. But really, one of the first things I wanted to ask you is, you know, there's a lot of leadership books out there. I've read, a dozen or so myself over the course of my career. But really, I kind of know the story, but I want to ask you so you can tell the audience, like, what led you to produce this book?
Yeah, so it was during the pandemic that I started. I had left my corporate career after 25 years. I'm going to go blaze a trail and do what I'm passionate about. And the pandemic hits, the world shuts down, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to use this time to create content that's going to serve people. So I went back and I looked over a ton of succession planning notes, thousands of leaders that would come through succession planning. But I narrowed my focus into what was the reason that leaders wouldn't advance or get promoted. And it came down to 2 things that in my research. 1 was a lack of emotional intelligence, or 2, a lack of firm accountability. And so I felt emotional intelligence was talked about pretty well. So I went down this road of firm accountability. Now, I'm in a Fortune 500 company with thousands and thousands of leaders, and we did never really adequately solve the problem. So I was on a mission to solve the problem. because this is what was done for me. Tough feedback helped me grow. And so I started building out this content, and I built a one-day workshop. And after COVID, I launched the workshop to the world, hoping like 5 or 7 people would show up, and it sold out. And it kept selling out. So when the book opportunity came about, I knew this is what the book had to be. So the workshop came before the book, which is abnormal. But that's what led to it, and really drawing on my experiences of if leaders could create Jeff Hancher, not that I'm anything special, and then thinking about the people that I've led over the years with some, really heartfelt stories, man, I know this is possible. I know it's possible to give tough feedback and genuinely care for people at the same time. But I got to help leaders do this because it is a miss most times.
Yeah. So one of the things, and I don't know if it was in the forward of the book, but it was very early on in the book, and it's something that comes up on this show a lot. And maybe, my wife always says I'm obsessed with this, but it's about the generational gaps, and we've got a new workforce coming in. Gen Z is 20, 30% of the workforce now, which, I got a lot of gray hair. It makes me feel old for sure. But, the title of the book itself is In a Fragile World, Firm Feedback in a Fragile World. So I think you addressed that early in the book. Is obviously the world we live in today looks a lot different than even 20 years ago.
For sure.
Culturally, and what do you mean by that? And you talk a little bit about growing up in a cancel culture, and what does that mean for the younger folks coming into the workforce? Like, can you talk me through that a little bit and explain that?
Yeah, that is the challenge, is how do I give firm feedback in the fragile world? So what's the fragile world? Well, we have more generations working in the workforce today than ever before, from the boomers to the Zs and everything in between. That's a challenge. We got the likes of quiet quitting that's costing the global economy on average of $9 trillion a year.
Wow.
We're post-COVID, which is still a factor. We're post-Great Resignation. We're in the spirit of YOLO. If something goes wrong, I'll just quit and go do something else. It's never been harder to attract talent to our companies. It's never been harder to retain it. So things are fragile. And how dare I go in and give some really tough feedback and rock the boat, because I'm just trying to hold this thing together. And so that's the fragile part, of the world.
Yeah, and so you may have answered my next question, which was going to be, why is firm feedback so often avoided, today? And I think it's part of, like you said, the cultural shift and the many generations entering the workforce, or like you said, we have the most generations working today than we ever have. Boomers are working longer, later into their retirement. Of course, we got the new guys coming in. We're somewhere in the middle, so it's a nice little vantage point, I think. But why is this avoided so much now? Is it that our generation did not get the skills that we needed? Is it more of the cultural piece? Like, where do you see those two marrying up as far as why is feedback done poorly or avoided altogether?
Yeah, I talk about the acronym FEAR in the book. FEAR. I think it's a perfect acronym to describe it. The F is fallout. What if I have this tough conversation and there's fallout, turnover, whatever that might be? We all know that there's a risk in having a tough conversation. Fallout's one of those things. The E is emotion. Hey, what if I have this tough conversation and they flip out or get defensive, i.e. a peak performer, right? What if I have this tough conversation and I embarrass somebody? What if I have this tough conversation and they cry? Listen, if you haven't made anybody cry yet, you're probably not doing it right. And I don't mean let's be a monster. I'm just saying sometimes people cry. I did a whole show on what to do when they cry. But there's emotion that can cause us to avoid having a tough conversation. Then you have the A, which is amateur. And when I talk about amateur, I'm not talking about tenure. Listen, there's people that come through our workshops that have 20 years of leadership experience and light bulbs are going off. Amateur is nobody's ever showed me or told me how to deliver tough feedback in a way that it can be impactful and effective. That's the amateur. And then R is retaliation. What if I have this hard conversation and I don't do it well, and this subordinate tells my boss or pulls in HR or pulls in legal, and I didn't do it right, and the next thing I know, I'm getting disciplined or fired. You know what I'm going to do based off of FEAR? I'm just going to hope this thing fixes itself. And we know that's never the case. Matter of fact, I would tell you that feedback is a gift. Tough feedback is a gift. And so we have to lean into this tough feedback and have a framework that what comes out the other side is impact and growth in the people that we lead.
Yeah, so that's great color. I love the acronym. And you're right. I think, all those things hit. Obviously I read the book, but it's like, yeah, those are the things when I look back in my career, who are the folks I avoided? Even political things, it could be, and that's part of retaliation in many ways. But if this person is connected, brothers or something, or maybe they've got some nepotism in the company, that's
Sure.
also something that is risky. I think that some leaders may, or maybe they don't know what the political landscape is. You're in a new company and you don't know who's got who's back, type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, that is a cultural driver. And part of giving that feedback and being able to is maybe setting up the environment. So do you have suggestions for leaders, especially if they're, leading large teams or, large teams of teams, et cetera? How do they set an environment for success in that, and to kind of kill some of those cultural or political or retaliation type things? Is it just kind of figure out where it's at, or like how do you navigate through that?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, a lot of leaders wing it, right? They model after what they've seen. They model how they've been raised. They've modeled how other bosses have done it. That doesn't mean that it's done well. The framework of the book and what I teach is simple, not easy. And how do we set that environment? We first start by setting clear and reasonable expectations. Then we move to the second piece of the framework, which is feedback. And then the last piece of the framework, which is accountability. This is the three-legged stool here. Without any one of them, it's not sustainable. Expectations is the foundation of delivering feedback and accountability. Look no further than a speed limit sign, right? A speed limit sign is an expectation. It's 55. And they don't tell you once, they tell you multiple times on the 100-mile stretch. It's 55, it's 55.
In PA, it's 55.
Not in Texas.
I'm from Texas,
Not
man.
in Texas.
But I'll tell you this, no one goes 55 up here. Sorry to interrupt, but
No, it's true. That's exactly the point, right? So nobody goes 55. But here's what we know. We know where the police sit in our neighborhood, right? Or that stretch of road on the interstate. So what do we do when we get close to that area?
we go 55.
We slow on down. And we look in the rearview mirror and pray that they're not pulling out, and they don't. And as soon as they're out of the rearview mirror, we speed up again. So are we compliant or are we engaged? We're compliant. We're not engaged, because engaged would be, I understand the expectation. I know why it's good for me. Mm-hmm. This is why I'm doing it. We're driving compliance. But imagine a world where there were never speed tickets, no fines. You never heard of anybody getting in a head-on collision and dying because of excessive speed. None of this ever happened. It would be a wild place to live.
No, you get to work twice as fast.
You get to work twice as fast. But hey, we know that there's accountability that comes with that expectation. We have leaders listening that fall on the side of passive. We have leaders that fall on the side of aggressive. It really doesn't matter where you fall, but what you have to do is earn the right to have a tough conversation. You do that by setting clear, reasonable expectations, training your team on how to meet or exceed that expectation, and making sure they understand why the expectation is good for them.
So that's a lot of responsibility for a manager.
It's a lot.
That probably feeds into, maybe that's not in the fear model, but what you're saying is, in order for me to give feedback, firm feedback for sure, I've got to give these guys the tools to be successful in the first place.
Yep.
Set the expectation around that. Set the speed limit, so to speak. And if we're over that, then hey, there was 20 signs you just read. There's the expectation. Now, do you have the tools to be able to not speed, right? And so I'm not sure that's a great metaphor, but that's a really important piece. It's a lot of work. I talked to Brian's on the booth. He sat through your conference a couple weeks ago. I think he had a great experience. But we were talking just yesterday about making those deposits, right? And I have a new company here. Upside's a new company, and I told him I spent, my first 6 months just deposit
right.
with as many of these employees as I could. Reading your book even supercharged that for me. I started doing the coins in the pocket,
Yeah.
telling people
Yeah.
thank you every day, but really going far because I know at some point I'm going to need to make some withdrawals, and maybe some substantial ones.
Yes.
And really the employees that I feel like I'm leaning towards needing to make some withdrawals, that's the ones I'm really needing to put some money in the bank first.
So true.
So
This is huge, and maybe the biggest point to take away from the entire content is if you're going to make big withdrawals, which we know is inevitable in leadership. We need results. We need deadlines. We need to take care of customers. We need. We have to make the deposits. I remember a time, I'm a blue-collar guy. I'm a truck driver. I'm picking up dirty clothes at Cintas. And, I would always see these people dressed fancy with suits and nice shoes, and they drove these fancy cars. You probably heard of them, Honda Accords. I mean, these are fancy cars. And I inquired on who are these people, and these are salespeople. And I'm like, man, that's what I want to do. So I finally get my break in sales because I was pretty good as a truck driver, winning awards and, all of this stuff. And I become a sales rep, and I found out that I sucked at it. And but I had a leader. His name was Sean, and he saw potential. So he would pull me into conference rooms one-on-one and role play with me for hours, teaching me interest-creating statements and how to overcome objections. He would jump in the car with me and observe, me giving a presentation and give me feedback. He knew my background, where I came from. I came from the other side of the tracks. He had some empathy towards that. This is a guy that took me into Joseph A. Bank once and, bought me, showed me how to dress as a professional, took me into the men's room, taught me how to tie a Windsor knot. This is a guy making big deposits, and I start having a level of success because of the deposits this guy's making into my life. And I remember a morning that I got a call from my dad that I got this call many times in my life, which was, Jeff, you need to get to the hospital. Mom's not doing well. And I go to the hospital, and this day was different than all the other days. This day, I got there within an hour of my mom passing. I got to hold her. And this day rocked me, Jeff, because, we were just looking at houses to get my parents out of the one-bedroom high-rise apartment. I was going to be able to help pay for their co-pays on their prescriptions. Things were finally starting to get to a place that I could help them and love them and care for them. And now my why, as they call it, has been taken from me. I went into a very dark place. My attitude was poor. I was showing up to work, but I wasn't performing, and I was toxic on the team. And one day, Sean pulls me into his office, and he just looks me in the eye, and he said, enough's enough. He said, I've given you 2 weeks, but I can't let you move forward like this. I'm going to give you 2 more days. I want you to come back in 2 days, and one of 2 things has to happen. You either need to be the person I know you can be and take care of your 18-month-old son, your amazing wife, and your dad, or you can't be on my team. Wow. This is some tough feedback.
yeah, I'll say.
If those deposits didn't happen, I probably would have popped him in the nose and walked out because that's who I was.
Yeah.
But I knew he was right, and I knew that he cared. And so I came back, and I became the man that I knew I could be. I ended up making a President's Club. I ended up going on to have 11 more promotions. I now have my own company. I wrote a book. Jeff, I often look back to that moment in Sean's office, and if I dwelled on it, I could even get emotional thinking about it. But I wonder what my life would be like today had Sean not made the deposits that earned him the right to have that tough conversation. That's the opportunity we have as leaders.
Right.
That's what we got to do.
Yeah. And, honestly, it feels good making those deposits.
It does.
95% of the people I make deposits in, some it's like, I don't know about that bank if that check's gonna cash, but you still got to do it.
Yeah.
But
And it's the right thing to do.
it's the right thing to do, and it honestly, I've been kind of taking some of this to heart the last 2 or 3 months. Brian may attest. I don't know, but we're definitely not living in some parallel universe or anything like that. But I've been doing leadership for a long time. I've had teams in excess, total of a couple hundred people before, and managing that is very difficult. And really at that level, I feel like I'm managing the culture and the expectation, but every department's got their own culture, right?
For
And
sure.
then of course the company has a culture, and sometimes I guess my departments were running counter to that culture. So balancing that is a big piece, but what happens in my department may not be what happens in my peers' department as far as employee promotions and all those sort of things. So it's really, some of those things are kind of out of your hands unless you are, top of the company type of thing. But
Sure.
To me, it's always really rewarding making those deposits, and not because I know I'm gonna, pull the money out later, but just, hey, you're investing in people.
That's right.
And that, to me, that is what drives a good leader, is the passion to do that. And
Yes.
I used to tell people, they ask me what I do for a living, and this, that, and the other. I tell them, and it's like, running pipelines and all these sort of things. That's not whatever got me out of bed for the last 20 years.
Right.
It was really people, and mentoring and coaching people. And I've been in leadership roles for a long time, but I think it's because I gravitate towards people and what can I do to get the most out of this person for them, and obviously for the company we would be working for at the time. But
Sure.
I want to pivot a little bit. We are on the Offsite Energy Tech podcast. And we have a kind of unique situation here, right? So we're 24 hours a day, long shifts. It's not like, suit and tie type job, 9 to 5. These guys eat lunch at their desk. They're here 12 and a half, 13 hours every time they're on. And some of these guys work 7 days straight. Some of them work 4 days straight. And, they're with another human being, or in our case, 3 or 4 others in a control room setting. Before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit about diversity in the workplace, and how important that is. I think here at OpSite, this is the first time that we've got every generation, like you said, from Z to Boomer in that room, and thank God it's honestly the culture here. These guys get along. There's very little back and forth or anything like that. But I've worked in other control rooms where that wasn't the case, and 12 hours beside someone you really can't stand, or maybe you could stand them, but 3 months later you can't because they eat this fish every Friday night or whatever, just things like that. Diversity in the workplace, let's just get into that as far as age diversity and ethical diversity, whatever you want, religious diversity, you name it. Like, how big is that today in balancing all that? Obviously, you got the HR piece, legal piece, all that. Outside of that, I always saw, and always was taught in business school, diversity is a great thing. You've got a diverse background. You said you came from gross poverty.
Yep.
You may have been working directly to someone who was, grew up with a silver spoon.
Oh, yeah.
And those are two different, ideologies potentially.
For sure.
Just because you're raised in that manner. But how important is diversity within your team?
Man, it's the eighth wonder of the world, right? When you're building anything. When I think diversity, I think the Avengers, and I don't know if anybody can identify with the Avengers here, but, my kids watch that series, and it always made me think, if you think of the Incredible Hulk, he has a pretty cool skill. This dude's strong. He can pick up cars and throw them. Yeah. But then there's all these other people that on the Avengers, some can fly, some can shoot arrows. They all have these very amazing gifts standalone, but together, it's unstoppable. As leaders, whenever we're fighting to have diverse teams, we're making our teams better. That perspectives bring something dynamic to the workplace. And the leader's role in that. Now, look, when you have a diverse team, you're almost asking for conflict because they think differently, they grew up differently, their experiences are different, how they go to do it is different. All of that is different. But if we as leaders can meet the individual right where they're at, one of the big things is understanding why success is important to them. It's one of my favorite leadership questions. Why is success important to you? When we know that, we can start tying their individual success to the success of the mission and the success of the team. I loved what you said, which was I never got in the truck, went on my way to work, and got fired up about pipe.
Yeah.
I didn't ever went to work getting fired up about dirty shirts and pants.
Right.
But what I got fired up about was what success could do for me. And when we can tie that to the mission, now, look, you have these elite Avengers individuals. And if you've ever seen any of the movies, they don't always get along. Well, that's going to happen whenever you're building high-performing teams. But the leader has to meet with those teammates one-on-one. This is the feedback piece, right? It starts with an expectation, but also understanding why success is important to them. Now we can give feedback. Let me give a quick analogy of this that will resonate with everybody. And you're a good sport, Jeff, so we'll role play.
Sure.
Jeff and I are going to a big trade show in Nashville in 2 weeks, and we're going to present the goods of our company, Opside Energy. And we're there to, make a great first impression, maybe pick up some new clients. We have a great business strategy. And I say, Jeff, I now understand exactly why this trade show is important to you. And we are going to represent Opsite in the very best way. Let me ask you something, Jeff. If we're walking into the trade show and I smell that your breath has a foul odor, would you want me to let you know before we get to the booth?
Yeah, obviously. Yeah, I'm going to be talking to people all day. I think that would be good feedback.
Yeah, fair enough. And I'm committed to doing that for you because the last thing we want is for a prospective client to come by and not stick around the booth because of that. So I'm committed to doing that for you. Now check this out. Me and Jeff are on our way into the booth 2 weeks from now, and I smell it. And I look at Jeff and I say, hey, Jeff, remember a couple weeks ago we were talking about, showing up and being ready, and you asked me to let you know if you had some strong coffee breath? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I remember. Well, today's that day. And I pull a mint out of my pocket, and I hand it to you. And you take it and put it in your mouth. What's the next word you say to me?
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Now, check this out. I'm in a convenience store. We've never met. I've never talked to you. I don't know who you are. But I smell the same odor behind me in line. And I turn around and I say, sir, your breath stinks. Now he's offended. Who are you to tell me? I might even get a punch in the nose. Check this out. The data is exactly the same. It's exactly the same. How we set the table to earn the right to have the conversation is critical. So as an individual and as you're building a diverse team, we have to earn the right, because that Gen Z might tell you in a one-on-one, that boomer's out of their mind. They think the only way we can win is to work 20 hours a day. They just ripped me up and down in the lunchroom for my TikTok reel that has gotten 100,000 views. They think that's dumb, right? Yeah. If we can win at the individual level and earn the right to bridge unity, that's what we do. But it has to start by clear expectations. Senior leaders, we call that vision and we call that culture. When that is our North Star, and we can bake in their why success is important to them, this is a winning formula for winning with unity on the team, albeit diverse.
It's great color there, Jeff. Yeah, enjoy the analogy. That's a good one.
His breath is amazing, by the way. It's minty fresh.
Yeah, I doubt that's the case. Probably smells like nicotine. But so getting back to my shift workers, shift workers are unique. There's even people who prefer to work at night, right? Like
Yeah.
the vampire guys. I always appreciate those because it frees up a day slot for, maybe there's someone's got a new baby in the house or something like that. So I always appreciate the guys that like the nighttime shift because it just makes life a little easier for everyone else. When we look at the team of the control room in Opsite, let's just say Opsite. If we got 4 full-time desks in there, but let's just focus on like one desk, the midstream desk. If the midstream is serving a certain client and that desk drops the ball, no one really remembers who that guy was on shift, and the client really doesn't care. All they know is that Opsite, midstream desk, dropped the ball. So the way these guys work a rotating shift is, they do 12 hours, and then the next guy comes in at 5 o'clock, and they do a shift change for about 30 minutes, and it's a large, long document and a conversation, and the other shift or the other controller gets on shift, and then maybe the other one sticks around for 10, 15 minutes and makes sure that, hey, they've got their feet under them. They understand, anything that's out there that's currently ongoing, maintenance, abnormal conditions, et cetera. And then, at the end of that hitch, so a 4-day hitch, those guys are gone, and then 2 new guys come in, 2 guys or gals come in, and then they do a hitch change. And, hey, here's what's happened since you were not here, or maybe the last 4 days, or maybe if you were on a vacation, 8 days, And so that's a really important conversation that has to happen. And then the next guy that comes on at the night shift, he's not getting that. He's getting the passover from this guy. But getting back to accountability, when the client sees that we've dropped the ball, and this is hypothetical, guys, we don't drop the ball. I'm just kidding. How do you get these guys to hold each other accountable? From obviously we're talking a lot about leadership and firm feedback, but the culture in a control room has to be that team holds itself accountable, because even though this guy has been on vacation for 8 days, when he comes back and all of a sudden the client's upset, he's gonna feel it. You know what I mean? He's going to feel it from leadership, hopefully, like, hey, here's what happened. Or he may even feel it from the client when he talks to him on the phone or calls their gas control or whatever it may be. Like, that's always been a struggle, I think, in control rooms to push, hey, we are a team.
Yeah.
And we fail as a team, just like a basketball team loses. I don't care if you scored 50 points and, had 10 assists. If you lost the game, you still lost the game.
Yeah.
How do you push that within the culture of a setting like this?
Yeah. I would broaden my earlier statement. Simon Sinek says it best when he says people will work for their what, but they'll die for their why. There's an exercise that I recommend leaders go through, and I'm going to present this, and somebody's going to be listening and saying, that would never fly on my team. Especially if you're in a blue-collar industry, because somebody's going to say, that's kumbaya. That's not us. That's not our culture. But I'll bet right now, if we walked into your workforce, Jeff, and I just had a chance to build some rapport and have a coffee with each person on your team or anybody listening and get to the root of why success is important to them, they will run through walls for that person that's counting on them to win, right? In most cases, it's our family. There's an exercise that I love to take teams through. I think it's two to three slides. And basically it talks about that, my belief systems, my values, what's most important to me, and who's counting on me to win.
Right.
And now, not only does the leader know, the entire team knows. So check this out. Inevitably, somebody's going to drop the ball. Not at OpSite, but I'm saying hypothetically at other companies.
Sure, yeah.
They're going to drop the ball. Now, not only can I sit Jeff down and I say, look, you dropped the ball. And here's why not dropping the ball matters. Obviously, there's a customer fallout. But even maybe more importantly to them, it's holding you back from why success is important to you. But I don't want to stop there. Because you remember 2 weeks ago, Brian got up and he told us about his son or his daughter and how he wanted to make sure that he could pay for their college. Every time we fall backwards and give the competition an opportunity to take market share, we're not only robbing the company, we're robbing Brian, we're robbing everybody on this team from their success.
Right.
Now listen.
So do you socialize these goals? I mean,
yes.
Obviously if they're private and but how do
Yeah.
you socialize that among the team and say, hey, this is Brian's why, this is
Yes.
this is Dave's why?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely yes. This is a level of vulnerability. And again, if your culture is not that way, work on it. And I hear it mostly in blue collar. I spent 25 years blue collar. We're talking about dirty mats, shop rags in coal mines, in oil and gas, like very, very blue collar. But I'm here to tell you, at the inside of every human being is a desire to do better. I believe that.
Yeah.
And so if we can get to the root of that, these are the deposits. Because now we're tying success not to a balance sheet. I mean, look, nobody cares. It's not that they don't care, but they don't care that much. I'll give you an example of this. I used to sell external defibrillators for cardiac arrest. Mm-hmm. And I led a large team that their job was to go out into the world and sell these. By the way, you talk about an easy sale. Cardiac arrest is the #1 killer in the workplace. When your heart goes into cardiac arrest, every minute that goes by, you have a 10% chance of not living. Average 911 responses are 8 minutes. If you go into cardiac arrest without a defibrillator, you're probably going to die. I have an answer for that. Should be an easy sale, right? I could not get my team to hit forecast. I would train them. I would role play with them. I would do all of these things. Matter of fact, I did what every good sales manager does, and I held a contest. Whoever wins is going to go to a beach resort. I thought that would fire them up. It didn't. I tried to tie it back to why. Little bit better. I hear a story of a lady in Texas, actually, at an LA Fitness, who is in her early 30s, has 2 young kids, healthy as could be, running on a treadmill, collapses. They put our defibrillator on her chest, hit the shock button. It requires a shock. Before the ambulance gets there, she's up walking around. I hear this story. I track this lady down. I have her speak at a sales meeting. Her words were this: I'm begging you. I am begging you. Get these in as many companies as you can. Without this equipment, my kids would be without a mom. All of a sudden, this motivation to not let people down was the thing that drove everybody.
Right.
We all have proven at some point in our life that we're willing to let ourselves down. But when it comes to other people, man, this is where you really start to engage motivation. I mean, look, you've seen all the military movies. I was in the military. The only thing that we talk about is not just protect yourself. There's other people to your left and to your right that have families that are counting on us to win.
Right.
When we can tie this into the workplace of diversity and why it matters, Chick-fil-A does this well.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure they do.
I mean, the last time you were there, somebody said, "It's my pleasure."
Yeah, I was actually there yesterday morning picking up about $150 worth of breakfast. And
They said it.
very early in the morning. And, yeah, they were very accommodating.
Yeah.
So.
And nobody knows the name of the person that said it.
Right.
But you know how you felt, and you know that culture, because they don't want to let customers down. My daughter, she got in trouble one day working at Chick-fil-A. She comes home. I asked her how her day was, and she was like, "Dad, I hate to report, I got disciplined today." And I said, "Jacqueline May, what did you do?" She's like, there was this one specific hour of my shift that my job was to give away 5 peach milkshakes, and I only gave away 4. And man, they told me, like, I can't miss that quota. I thought to myself, this is exactly why it was mandatory for my kids to work here. Like, she says these words that has stuck with me ever since. She said, "I'm not so upset that a customer didn't get a milkshake. I'm upset because the rest of the team was around when the boss said that I missed the milkshake. It was the one missing thing to have a perfect shift. It wasn't about her. It was about the team that was counting on her to run a great shift, to serve people well, and drive a culture. She was more upset that she let her team down than that somebody didn't get a milkshake." No. And if we can do this, it's with vulnerability, it's with sharing, it's with setting the clear expectations, understanding why success is important to people, being willing to do what Sean did for me by earning the right to have a tough conversation. Because expectations without accountability makes you a pushover. Accountability without feedback and expectations, it makes you a monster. Right in the middle is assertive. And when we earn the right to do that, we can literally change lives. That's the mission of the book.
Yeah, and that's wonderful, man. It's a great way to think about it, and culturally, I think that is very important to, like what you're saying, bring everyone's why to the forefront. I'm thinking in my head while you're talking, like, what is the best way to do this? Maybe have some engagements where we have dinner out and bring the family, like, let them meet your why, sort of thing. I think vulnerability. I think our culture is set up here at OpSite pretty well. We're sort of a new company, so it's still some tweaking here and there. But that's really great insight, Jeff. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
So we can move on a little bit from control room atmospheres. That way we can get a little bit more into the book real quick. Let's just talk about common mistakes and best practices for leadership and managers, et cetera. So give me like the top 2 or 3 biggest, or maybe not the biggest or worst, but most common mistakes when people are trying to give feedback.
Well, this is gonna get a rise out of some people, I'm sure, because it's so commonly taught, is one of the biggest mistakes that I see when delivering feedback is what we call the feedback sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
You may have heard of it, where it's like, Jeff, you're amazing, but you suck, but you're amazing, right? Hey, Jeff, look, you've been doing a great job. We really love you around here, but you were 15 minutes late to the meeting. But I got to tell you, you're really enjoyable to work with, and you're a great team player. Well, so what am I? Am I being applauded? Am I being disciplined? Why people do this is they're cushioning it. And it's usually a sign of an insecure leader or a leader that's moving in fear. You know, they want to soften the blow. That's manipulation, if I may. I'm not saying you're a bad person. I'm not saying you have a bad heart, but I am saying it's manipulation, because there's going to come a day that you're going to see an opportunity to make a deposit and catch somebody doing something right. And I would say, you know what, Brian, I just want to, hey, before you leave for the day, I saw what you did with that client. I saw that you stayed an extra hour to make sure all the boxes went out on time. And I just wanted to say thank you. And Brian's sitting there waiting for the condemnation.
Right.
So we can't do the sandwich. Great leaders, they're firm. They're not high, they're not low. When we see feedback as nothing more than information, it's freedom. It's absolute freedom. If I earn the right to tell Jeff that he needs a mint, it's just information. It's just data. If I've earned the right to do that, he thanks me. Right. Versus punches me, right? We got to earn the right. The second thing that I see that leaders often make mistakes in is labeling. You know, we can all lose our composure because we're in the people business, right? And if you're around people long enough, everybody gets a little tense. You know, this labeling thing can be catastrophic for leadership legacy. And labeling is this: you always, you never.
Right. Yep.
You know,
learn that from marriage counseling. You don't use those words.
Oh man, oh man. You know, Joe's late to the meeting, and you pull him in, and you're like, Joe, you're always late. I'm always late. I've been here 15 years. I've been late every day. So we talk in the book about how do we go about doing that. You know, we talk about the 5 accountability questions, and we talk about situation, behavior, impact, intent. You know, there's a right way to go about this, because show me an impactful leader, and I'll show you a leader that has high composure. You know, no great leader was ever, it was never said about them, they really fly off the handle and get emotional and throw chairs. Nobody ever said that of a great leader.
Right. Well, that's great. Yeah. So the next thing I want to talk about is you talked about the feedback sandwich, and you know the expectation the next time is, hey, where's the meat of this sandwich, right?
Yeah.
So if a leader has, how can a leader repair trust if they've given feedback poorly in the past before they read your book, Jeff? How do they go back and change that or reset the bar, so to speak?
Fall on the sword. You got to fall on the sword. This takes a lot of humility. So if you're listening today and you're a person that has a big ego, this is going to be really, really hard for you, which if you're listening to this show, that's probably not you. But if that is you, you're going to have some humility, and you're going to have to fall on the sword. And it looks something like this. It could be in a team setting. It could be one-on-one. Let's just assume it's a team setting. You know, and I encourage people in my workshops to do this, because the light bulbs are going off. And inevitably on a break, somebody's going to come to me and they're going to say, Jeff, I believe in what you're teaching, but if I go back and start acting like the manager I'm supposed to be, my team's going to think I'm nuts. And I say, you got to fall on the sword. And it sounds something like this. Hey, team, I haven't been leading you the right way. I have come to realize that I owe you more in leadership. I have not been doing a great job of setting expectations, giving feedback, and holding people accountable.
Right.
And I know that's important. And so I'm committed to doing that moving forward. And this is what you can expect from me. Because, Jeff, I know your why. I state it. You know, Brian, I know your why. I state it. And I'm committed to making sure those things happen. And I know I have to make some changes as a leader. Now, this is fall on the sword. Now, that alpha leader that's listening is saying, there is no way I'm ever going to do that. That alpha leader, most times why they're that alpha and aggressive is they don't want to be taken advantage of. They have been taken advantage of. I'm here to tell you that you can be very assertive and still have people care deeply for you. Think about the 4 people in your life, Jeff, and listener, that has made the biggest impact on your life. This is your Mount Rushmore of leadership. These are 4 people that you would say, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be who I am today. Now, let me ask you a question. I mean, this could be a teacher, a pastor, a coach, a boss, family member, whatever it is. Let me ask you a question about those 4 people. Were they tough on you? I'll bet they were. But let me ask you a follow-up question. Did you know they cared? And the answer is yes. So here's what we know. You can be tough and care at the same time, because the goal is not to be a boss people report to. The goal is to be a leader that people don't want to let down. Right. Those 4 that you have in your mind, you didn't want to let them down. When you did, it crushed you. It's possible that everybody listening can be that leader.
That's great advice. That's a good way to think about it, I think, and going back to your own why and applying it, replace that family member with this employee. And yes, that's really good. We are getting a little short on time, but I want to go into a little lightning round.
Yes.
Okay, just 3 quick questions. Obviously, you got your book here, but what's one book every leader should read besides your book, of course?
The 5 Levels of Leadership by John Maxwell.
Okay.
Is an absolute must read. It takes us on this journey of title and first business card to legacy, the belief systems to get to next levels, the pitfalls once you get there. It's a great roadmap for the journey of leadership.
The 5 levels of leadership.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Next one. What's your go-to advice before a difficult conversation?
Earn the right. Earn the right to have the difficult conversation. This is why we have 50-cent pieces in our pocket, right?
Right.
Which you'll get that in the book, Cliffhanger. But the other thing is composure. Tough conversations can carry with them a lot of emotion. Here's what I'll say to this, those listening, if not, Google these names. When I say the name John McEnroe to you, Jeff, what do you think of instantly?
U.S. Open.
U.S. Open. What was he known for?
Tennis.
Tennis. Known for tennis. Had a big temper. Won a lot. Had a big temper. Threw rackets, threw bottles, cussed, all this stuff. There was a guy by the name of Bjorn Borg that beat him more than any other person. When Bjorn retires, they ask him the question, hey, now that you're never going to play John McEnroe again, let us know, how did you beat him so much? A guy that's known for a temper and breaking rackets and all this stuff. And he said, now that I'm retired, I'll let this secret out. He said, I actually never played John a tennis match once in my life. I played a ball. He said, I've learned the game of tennis, the only way that changes the outcome of a game is how that little yellow ball travels back and forth across the net. You know what he was saying is profound? We have employees that get upset, they cry, they yell, they scream, all of this stuff. We're leaders of composure because we're high on standards and soft on people. And so that would be my advice, is gain composure and earn the right to have a tough conversation.
Right. That's good feedback there, too. I said U.S. Open, John McEnroe. I've watched, the U.S. Open just finished, but you wouldn't even expect to hear that his history was of that because he's so good in the broadcast booth and so composed. So.
Yes.
Last one here. Favorite quote or motto that guides your leadership, or what is your favorite quote?
I already said it. I'll say it again. Don't be a boss that people report to, but become a leader people don't want to let down. This, I should probably trademark it at this point because I feel like I say it 50 times a day. Because I think if you really dwell on this, it changes mindset. And we know before anything good can ever happen, we have to internalize it in our mind. So often we show up to be bosses people report to because the mission, the numbers, the balance sheet, the profit, the revenue. And I love those things. I love talking about them. I love helping companies win in those areas. But when we can transition that to becoming a leader that people don't want to let down, not only are we impacting lives, but the byproduct of that is a healthy company. I'm grateful for a guy like Sean and many others in my life and the people that I've had a chance to lead. When we get people right, they're going to take care of our customers. It's going to create loyalty. It's going to create gratitude. And let me tell you, everybody that has an open job at your company right now, your best recruiting strategy is great leadership. It's great leadership. It's not Indeed. It's not a job board. People will follow great leaders. And so don't be a boss people report to. Be a leader that people don't want to let down.
That's great. That's great advice, Jeff. And I want to thank you again for spending some time with us this morning. Appreciate you coming. Before we get done with that, let's do the plugs. Where can these guys find you? There's your website up. Brian pulled up. Where's your podcast at? Give us the whole rundown. Where can we get more Jeff Hancher?
Yeah. Thank you, Jeff. And it's an honor to be on here. And thank you to the listener for listening in. If you're listening to this show, you mean business. You could be doing a lot of things. I would love to be a part of your journey. I have a podcast, the Champion Forum Podcast, comes out every Thursday. Whether you want an episode or not, it's going to be in your inbox. We have show notes to that podcast, which are absolutely free. It's a leadership tool that you can use to digest the content of the show. Certainly, we have workshops all over the country, and we got the book. You can get the book at firmfeedbackbook.com or wherever books are sold. Go to firmfeedbackbook.com if you're getting the book, though, because we have some free resources there for you.
Appreciate you, Jeff. Y'all have a good one.
Take care.